What would you do if the doctor told you there's nothing more they can do for you? That it's time to give up. Would you accept it, or would you start asking more questions? In today's episode, you'll hear a story of someone who chose not to accept the ending he was handed and the surprising steps that he took to fight back. Next on the podcast. Let's do this.
Welcome to the No Sitting on the Sideline Dad podcast, a podcast about a journey of discovery and conversations about not sitting on the sideline of life. Let's get involved. Here's host Joe Foley.
Hey, welcome to the No Sitting on the Sideline Dad podcast. I'm your host, Joe Foley, and I'm really grateful you're here. Today we're going to talk about something that touches many lives, but isn't always easy to talk about. We're digging into the journey of facing cancer head on, and what it means not to give up hope, even when the odds feel stacked against you. But before we jump in, I want to be super clear. This episode is for informational, inspirational purposes only. Neither myself nor my guests are medical professionals. This is one person's story about what works for them. Please, always consult your doctor or healthcare provider before trying anything we discussed here. Ask questions, do your research, and advocate for yourself. So, who's joining me today? My guest is William Hudson. William is a cancer survivor, someone who's been diagnosed with stage 4 cancer and told he didn't have much time left. But he didn't accept that at the end of his story's ending. Instead, he looked for answers. He dug into the research, explored the alternative approach, and most importantly, he did not give up on himself. Today, William is here to share what he learned along the way, the choices he made, and hope that he wants to help offer others who might be facing a similar fight. So let's jump into the conversation. Welcome to the podcast, William.
Thank you. It's good to be here. Appreciate it very much.
But before we start, I know that's one of the important things we want to talk about. I know when we talk about healing with cancer and stuff like that, we're both not doctors. This is your journey, your research, and your diagnosis.
This is my story. I'm not a doctor or a medical professional. This is what I did that I believe helped me beat cancer. What I did, thousands of other people have done as well. And even people like me whose doctors gave up on them and sent them home to die. These things have been very effective in helping people for the last 75 to 100 years in the two protocols that I want to talk about today. So yeah, you're right.
Well, one thing I was interested too, especially with somebody who's diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, I love the title of your book, Death Can Wait. Mm-hmm. What does that mean to you?
It does mean you don't have to die of cancer. A cancer diagnosis is, a lot of people believe the myth that it's a death sentence, but it doesn't have to be a death sentence. There are so many things you can do to beat cancer naturally. It's interesting because your doctors have a short list of things that they can tell you or recommend for treating cancer. The FDA and the American Medical Association have a list of things that doctors are approved to recommend for treating cancer, and natural treatments are not on that list. So it's important for anyone out there who may have cancer to do the research, listen to your doctors, of course, but there are other options out there. That's really the title, Death Can Wait. It means you don't have to die now. You don't have to die of cancer. We all die eventually, but you don't have to die of cancer now. You can still live a long and healthy life, and that's what I meant by the title.
Well, it seems to me the title, I'm not giving up, a little bit grit and determination. That's why I see it as that title.
Absolutely. And that's important because I do like to give people that message. If you've been diagnosed with cancer, do not give up on yourself. That's what I did. I didn't give up on myself. I did the research and found things that worked. So it's important. Many cancer survivors like myself who shouldn't have survived cancer stage have something in common. It's not giving up on yourself, taking your health care into your own hands. It's radically changing your diet, keeping a positive attitude, finding reasons to live, things like that. And that's really important.
I was interested when you said you were diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. That must have hit you like a ton of bricks.
Oh, yeah. It was devastating. I think back, it was 6 years ago now. I've been cancer-free for 6 years, but my diagnosis was 6 years ago. since I was feeling well, feeling sick, I was pretty healthy. And I went right to a stage 4 cancer diagnosis. So I never even started with stage 1 or 2 or 3. It wasn't a progressive thing. It was stage 4, and they immediately recommended surgery. And then I did immunotherapy, which my body rejected. I had an autoimmune response to that. It was emotionally devastating. I felt like, oh my gosh, am I going to die? And that's when I decided to do the research. After we had to stop the immunotherapy, that my doctor said I probably had less than 10 months to live. That's when my doctors pretty much gave up on me, and I decided not to give up on myself. The emotions can get overwhelming, but my background is in computers. I'm a logical person, and I try not to get too emotional about things. And I just looked at this as another problem to solve. I'm a problem solver, and cancer to me was just another obstacle in the way of my life, and I was going to find a way around it no matter what. So that's what I did. I did the research and found a way around it and got through it emotionally as well as physically.
I know people in my life, especially my mom. My mom passed away of lung cancer about 2018. And they said 6 months to live. The doctors, I felt like they gave up. It's almost to watch the person go through the emotions and everything and the stages of the grief and, kind of like your case, you didn't give up. You've been cancer-free for 6 years. But you could see the different emotion roller coaster people go through.
Yeah. Especially if you trust your doctors like most people do. Sometimes it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy when your doctors tell you you have X number of months or years to live. And it's almost like your body listens to that command. You almost have to override it in your brain and say, oh, no, I know what you said. I hear what you're saying. I know the stats are against me, but you just have to rewire your brain and not allow it to get you down. You got to think about your reasons for living. If you have kids or parents to take care of, or even a pet, there are reasons for you to live and survive. And there are people who love you and care about you and need you. It's not your time to go. That's what I told myself.
Did it help you pull it through, though?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it did.
Not giving up and fighting.
Absolutely. That's what got me through.
Well, it was interesting, too, another thing you mentioned with the steps you took to overcome the challenges of stage 4 cancer. Can we talk about what was the first one?
I'll mention one thing before I mention the first one, the myth of debunking natural treatments. If you do a Google search, at the top of the list on Google, they're going to say, oh, this treatment has been debunked. And if you read into the article, what it's really saying is there is no scientific evidence proving that this treatment is effective in treating cancer. Well, yes, that's correct, because no company, no pharmaceutical company, no organization wants to spend millions of dollars on a study, and there's no money to be made in it. Natural treatments cannot be patented, and also think about this: if suddenly in the front page of every major newspaper and on all the mainstream news media outlets, they said, oh, we found a natural treatment for cancer, the cancer industry would die overnight because it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. There's a lot of interest in protecting the cancer industry. They're not keen on getting the word out there that there are natural treatments, but there are many, many natural ways to treat cancer. And the ones I found were just a couple of them. That happen to be affordable and easy to do. So that's why I started with them. The first one is the Budwig diet or the Budwig recipe. It's spelled Budwig. Mm-hmm. And it was actually founded by Dr. Johanna Budwig back in the early last century. She was a biochemist and a physicist. She studied the properties of essential fatty acids and how they affect our cellular health. The two main ingredients of the Budwig diet are flaxseed oil and cottage cheese, and you blend them together in a certain recipe. You mix it together in a certain way, blend it together, and she found that the flaxseed oil, which is rich in omega-3s, and it's an essential fatty acid that's very important for overall health. What it does, the formula promotes biooxygenation at the cellular level, and basically that means healthy cells like oxygenation at the cellular level, and cancer cells hate it. So what it does is it helps improve your immune system while at the same time helps destroy the cancer cells. She did some interesting studies on cancer patients who had anemia. Even when surgery and radiation failed, when she used this Budwig diet on them, she stated that 90% of her patients were healthy within a few months. There's a lot of science behind it. There's a lot of history behind it. There have been thousands of people who have used it. You just don't hear about it. And if you do, people are saying, oh, no, it's been debunked, but it hasn't. There's too many people who have gotten well, like myself, from it, that you just can't overlook it.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned, but it's interesting because there's no money to be made in it. I mean, because you mentioned before, the cancer treatments and stuff is a big business. And there's one, I always wondered, I'm not being a conspiracy, but I always wonder, is there a cure for cancer that they're just not telling us about so they can make money? Yeah. Is that possible?
Yeah. And I say yes. In fact, the way I found out about this was through the Truth About Cancer. Mm-hmm. It's a website called The Truth About Cancer with Ty and Charlene Bollinger. They've been traveling all over the world doing video series, talking to oncologists, talking to holistic treatment centers, talking to cancer survivors who have used natural and holistic treatments for beating cancer. I was watching one of their videos and heard about the Budwig diet and the other formula that I'm going to talk about. There's a lot of discussion out there, a lot of evidence. You just have to know how to find it. If you try Googling the Truth About Cancer website, they've been banned on almost all social media. That's how serious this business is about suppressing information about possible natural cures. So just a little bit more about the Budwig diet. There was a Dr. Dan C. Rome. He was an MD, FACP oncologist and a former cardiologist. He studied this Budwig diet recipe and he called it, quote, the most successful anti-cancer diet in the world. And he concluded this from doing tests both in vitro and in vivo, and both in and out of test tube and both in live subjects. So that's the Budwig diet. There is a Budwig Center in Malaga, Spain. It's a natural treatment center. They have a website if people want to go to that. It's budwigcenter.com. They have, it's a legitimate holistic cancer treatment center that people travel to from all over the world, and it's based on the protocols of Dr. Joanna Budwig. They have a treatment that you can do from home if you want. They have the official recipe listed on there. So just wanted to mention that because it adds a little more legitimacy to the Budwig diet.
Well, it's interesting. I just wanted to mention too is the natural holistic medicine from different ingredients that naturally we have, like omega-3 fatty acids, flaxseed. Besides cancer, a lot of natural remedies for inflammation and other stuff that you always see on the news about promoting medication for, but we can get it naturally, which I found when you were talking, that's what I was thinking about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. In fact, omega-3s are known to reduce inflammation.
Oh, wow.
And in fact, chronic inflammation with chronic disease, there's almost always inflammation involved. And so that's one of the things that omega-3s do for the body is it reduces inflammation. Omega-3s also aid in cognitive function, it lowers blood pressure and reduces the risk of heart disease. It helps eliminate toxins from the body. It provides hormonal balance benefits, especially for women with menopausal symptoms, apparently, and significantly reduces bad LDL cholesterol levels. So that's just omega-3s all by themselves, not to mention the Budwig diet. And treating cancer holistically, the whole idea of treating your body in a holistic way is to eliminate toxins from your body, eliminate toxins from your environment, and put into your body things that are going to make your body have a stronger immune system. And that's really the whole idea behind the Budwig diet and the Hoxie formula, which I'm going to talk about next. It's about eliminating toxins and putting in things that are helpful to your body and improves your own body's ability to fight off disease. Because if you think about it, radiation treatments and chemotherapy are not helping your body fight off disease. It's basically killing everything in its path. It's making you sick. And the holistic approach is to not try and kill the cancer, but to improve your body's immune system so that your body can eliminate cancer naturally.
Well, you see people go through chemotherapy, and I know somebody who had leukemia, but he had a port, and he went through many stages of chemotherapy, and the side effects are horrible.
They are. I have a chapter in my book about this. It's very controversial. Chemotherapy can work for certain types of cancer,
Mm-hmm.
But for a lot of different cancers, it can also make it worse. It can cause your certain kinds of cancers to metastasize and spread to other parts of the body. And in fact, my own oncologist, when I asked about chemotherapy, he said chemotherapy is not going to cure your cancer. At best, it's going to give you a few more months to live. He says it's not a cure. It's just going to help delay the death, basically. And that's not very promising to hear from your oncologist. So I'm glad I never had to do chemotherapy because I've seen the effects of it and I know what it can do to you.
Also, you mentioned detoxifying your environment. That's helpful too, like getting natural foods, like detoxifying stuff. What did you mean by like that stuff?
One of the 5, getting rid of chlorine and fluoride in your water, for example, which are toxic. In fact, fluoride is known to be a cancer, causes cancer. And so you can eliminate both fluoride and chlorine from your drinking water by using different types of filters. Or you can get bottled water delivered to your home, mountain spring water like I do from Lake Arrowhead. And then you can get an underwater sink filter on Amazon that filters out fluoride. Chlorine is usually filtered out anyways, but fluoride is a special filter. And then there's also the Berkey water filters, which is a gravity-driven water filter. It has 2 big canisters, and you have the filters on the bottom, and you get a special filter that filters out fluoride, and then you pour the water in the top, and it filters down into the bottom. So that's one way of getting rid of toxins from your drinking water. We use air filters in almost every room in our house to filter out dust, mites, animal hair, germs, and bacteria. That's another good idea. If you live near a power line, that's probably not a good thing because the electromagnetic frequencies are going to have a toxic effect on your overall health. So just thinking about where you live, the air that you breathe, the water that you drink, the food that you eat, you want to eliminate from food, you want to eliminate things like sugar and alcohol, other things that are known to be toxic, certain types of fats, you want to eliminate from your diet. So if you eliminate all of these things, both environmental and from your food, and then start putting in healthy things, like the Hoxsey formula and the Budwig diet, you're going to give your body a real good chance of fighting off cancer.
Well, it's one thing you mentioned, and too, like on the power lines of magnetic fields, our cell phones up to our ears.
Yeah.
I've heard, I'm not quite sure. I have to check this out myself. I don't have it written down, but brain cancer from cell phones.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's a real thing. I never put the phone up to my ear, ever. I always use a speakerphone, and I have a hard case on it. So even when I'm holding it on my hand is protected from the radiation or whatever it is that's emanating from the phone. So that's a real thing. Yeah. I can't cite any statistics on that, but it's a prevalent thing. You just don't want to hold that. I mean, think about it. It's a vibrating machine with all kinds of whatever is coming out of it, and you hold it up to your brain for hours at a time every day. It can't be good.
What are the next steps we wanted to talk about today?
The next one is called the Hoxsey formula. If you were to Google it, it's going to say it's been debunked, but it really hasn't. In fact, there's a long history. The Hoxsey formula is something I learned through Ty and Charlene Bollinger through The Truth About Cancer. The Hoxsey formula was created back in the actually late 1800s by a guy named John Hoxsey, who was a horse breeder.
Oh, wow.
He had horses that had cancer, and he was getting ready to give up on them. He was going to do what you do with horses that aren't going to survive. He was going to kill them. But before he did that, he saw that his horses were grazing in a nearby field of herbs, and they got better. And so he's like, wow, what's going on there? He gathered up the herbs that his horses were eating that made them well, and he mixed them up and created the first version of the Hoxsey formula elixir. That was back in the late 1800s. Meanwhile, horse breeders from all over the country were seeking him out and his formula because it worked. It was healing horses from all over the place that had cancer.
Oh.
He passed this formula down through the generations. Finally, it got to Harry Hoxsey, his great-grandson, and he adopted the formula for humans. It was not approved by the FDA, but word got out of its effectiveness for curing terminal cancer cases. His practice grew to become the largest privately owned cancer clinic in the United States at the time. They had cancer treatment centers in 17 major cities throughout the United States. The American Medical Association got involved and they tried to shut him down. They went to court. Harry Hoxsey ended up winning a court case against the AMA, and the case concluded that the formula was effective in treating various types of cancer. The next day, the FDA shut down all the clinics for dispensing cancer treatments not approved by the FDA. And the clinic ended up moving to Tijuana, Mexico, where they remain today. The history is much longer and much more interesting than that, but that's the nut and bolts of how it was discovered and a long controversial history. So the FDA and the AMA do not like this Hoxsey formula because they actually tried to buy the formula. The AMA tried to buy the formula from Harry Hoxsey, and then Harry found out that they were planning on buying it so that they could squash it and not let it be used anymore. So he refused to sell it to him, and so it's remained a private formula in the family, and it's been passed down through the generations. The clinic is run by an American that's affiliated with the family. Some of the ingredients in the Hoxsey formula are licorice, red clover, burdock root, stellingia root, poke root, cascara amarga, prickly ash bark, buckthorn. These are all commonly used today in traditional herbal medicine and are usually aimed at detoxifying, immune support, liver function support, and overall health. So my conclusion was that John Hoxsey apparently had smart horses.
Oh, well, another thing, too, I was interested in is taking over your mind-body connection, strengthening that. In the beginning, we talked about getting blindsided by a diagnosis of cancer. How is important to your mind-body connection?
That's very important. I'm usually very shy about talking about these things, but I'm a very spiritual person. I pray every day. I actually even created a video before my surgery. After my diagnosis, there was like a 2 or 3 month period before I went into surgery, and I didn't know if I was going to make it. I did an inspirational video that showed people exercising and happy and jogging down the street, and it had a beautiful song in the background and affirmation statements like, my body is strong and healthy. I listened to that every day, and it's a 2-minute video. I watched it every day leading up into my surgery, which was successful, obviously, because I survived it. and yeah, I pray every day. You have to keep a positive mental attitude. I use visualization to visualize any cancer. It was on my lung, is where they first found it. I visualized it dissolving and not coming back to the rest of my body. Just giving my body commands and the cancer commands, and not hating the cancer, but loving it, just sending love to it. I happen to be a Reiki master. It's an energy healing methodology. I'm not a practicing Reiki practitioner, but I did get trained like over 15 years ago in how to do Reiki healing. Even though I didn't physically do that to myself, just having been trained in healing energy flow through your body, that just for that training and understanding that we're all connected, everything's connected. We're not just an isolated body of flesh and bone. We are all connected spiritually. We're connected to the rest of the universe. And the universe, I believe the universe and God, whatever you want to call it, has our best interests in mind and wants to help us. And so we just have to connect to that energy and connect to that positive vibe and allow it to help us be healed and to help us to have the life that we all deserve.
Well, it's interesting, too. You think it's some reason a God or whoever is the person in charge up there gives us challenges for us to overcome so we become a better person, maybe?
Oh, absolutely. I have no doubt whatsoever that everything happens for a reason. I believe that my cancer was for a reason. I believe that I got cancer so that I could learn how to not give up on myself, find alternative treatments that would make me well, and then share it with the rest of the world. I wrote the book to share what I did to help possibly save other people's lives. I think that's the purpose behind my cancer, that I would learn how to beat it and then share my story with other people.
Well, one thing that's interesting, as you're talking, I was thinking too, is do you remember what it was like before they told you you have cancer? I would assume that's a life-changing experience. Has anything changed for you?
Before I had cancer, I was just an ordinary guy living life as best I could. I had a 9-to-5 8 to 5 job. I was working in higher education, information technology, and trying to pay the bills. And on my time off, just trying to have a good time with my friends and family, go hiking and exercising, trying to stay healthy and stay happy. And then when the cancer came, it pretty much, it's a life changer when you get diagnosed with cancer. And in many ways, good things happened, to be honest with you. Of course, it was scary. I went through the surgery and they told me I was going to die. I did the research and started trying the things that I learned. I was working full time at the time, and some good things happened out of it. Shortly after about a year after my surgery was when the pandemic came, and they shut down all the businesses and higher education. We ended up working at home. Right after my diagnosis and surgery, because I had a lot of medical appointments, my employer allowed me to work from home a couple days a week, which to me was wonderful because I had a long commute. I had family and pets at home that I loved to be able to spend time with. And I just loved working from home. And so that was one benefit that came out of the cancer, was I got to work from home. Then the pandemic came and we were able to work from home full time, but that has nothing to do with my cancer. Another thing was it really made me think about what's important in my life, and I had to set my priorities and decide what I wanted to live for. Did I want to live? Was I going to give up? I had to do some soul searching and think about what I wanted the rest of my life to look like. And frankly, for the last 6 years, it's changing now, but for the last 6 years, I go from scan to scan, wondering whether the cancer is going to come back or not. And so my life pretty much feels like it's been on hold in some ways for the last 6 years, because you never know. My doctors were expecting my cancer to come back, but it never did, and it looks like it's not going to. So thank God for that. But it really made me do some soul searching. Now that I'm retired and cancer-free, I'm starting to look beyond just the cancer and thinking about, okay, I want to really start living. And we've got all kinds of travel plans in the near future. I'm focusing on living life more abundantly now that I'm cancer-free.
The one thing else too, and one thing I want to touch base from almost wrapping up and stuff, is taking control. I know how important it is to take control of your healthcare, but if one person, doctor says, can't do it, do you just say, listen, is there alternative treatments? You take control and take charge of your own healthcare?
Absolutely. There's a project, it's called the Radical Remission Project. It was headed up by Dr. Kelly Turner, PhD. She studied people like myself who should not have survived cancer statistically. Over a 10-year period, she interviewed thousands of patients like myself, and she discovered there are 9 factors, and she calls them radical remission factors. There are 9 factors of radical remission, and one of them is taking control of your health. The first one is radically changing your diet. The next one is taking control of your health, which means, you become an active participant in your treatment. You make informed decisions about your health. You listen to your doctors, but also do more research and find out what other options there are out there. You make informed and intelligent decisions if they had recommended, in fact, when I had to negotiate with my doctors after they told me we stopped immunotherapy, and before they were going to recommend chemotherapy, I said, okay, let's wait until the next scan before we do anything else, because I wanted to try out these protocols that I had discovered. Mm-hmm. And so that's an example of me taking control of my health and negotiating with my doctors. And fortunately, that was a good thing, because I didn't have to do chemotherapy, and each time a scan came up, it showed clear. And then some of the other factors are following your intuition. You need to trust and act on your inner guidance regarding treatments and lifestyle choices, using herbs and supplements, releasing suppressed emotions, increasing positive emotions, like cultivating feelings of joy, love, and happiness, embracing social support, building strong relationships with people like family and friends, and so on. Deepening your spiritual connection is another factor. And then having strong reasons for living, which I mentioned before.
When I was one last one or two, any feedback from your book? I know your book's been up a little bit. Any feedback from people left a review, and how is it for you?
It's been really great. The book is done much better than I expected to. I'm a first-time author, and didn't really know what I was doing when I published the book, but I did have a little help from Steve Harrison and others to help me get it out there and publicize. It's got 4-star reviews on Amazon. Of course, I would like it if it had 5-star reviews. I think that part of the reason people don't give it 5 stars all the time is because it is a rather short book. It's a very, you can read it in probably an hour and a half. But I kept it short on purpose because I wanted to give people diagnosed with cancer something they can do right away and not have to read through, volumes and volumes of material to try and find something that was going to work for them. So the book is short because it talks about just what I did and recommendations that I have for people, and including 2 protocols. I've had a lot of really good reviews. I'm waiting for that one person because it's only been out since April. So I'm hoping that someone's going to read the book. And a lot of people have been reading the book. It's been a bestseller. Hundreds of people a month are buying it. So someone eventually out there is going to try the protocols, do what I said, and get well from cancer. And I'm hoping that person is going to go out and write a review saying, "Oh my God, it saved my life." That'll really help give a legitimacy to the book and to what's in there. But I'm really happy with how it's going so far.
Wrapping up, final thoughts. Anything you want to leave with the audience? Maybe 1 or 2 pieces of advice that really would help them?
One of the things I didn't mention was taking digestive enzymes with every meal and taking a probiotic every day. And that's one little practical advice that you should look into. The other would be what I've already mentioned before, is don't give up on yourself. There are so many things out there that you can do to make yourself well. The myth is that cancer is a death sentence, but it does not have to be a death sentence. Hollywood even tells you if someone's been diagnosed with cancer, everyone cries and they all get sad and they all expect the person who has cancer to die, and they usually do in the movies. So it doesn't have to be that way. You have to really just change your mindset and try and be as positive as possible and realize that there are so many things that you can do, and do not give up on yourself.
Where they can find more about you and your book?
My webpage is williamhudson.org, where you can find more information. And then if you want to get the book right away on Amazon, you can search Death Can Wait by William Hudson, and it'll pop up.
William, all links will be in the show notes for this episode. Thank you for your time today. Thank you for the conversation. I really do appreciate it.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Big thanks to William Hudson for sharing his powerful story, his journey. Reminder that sometimes the most important thing we do is keep asking questions and refusing to give up on ourselves. So, leaving you with this. What does it take to control of your health look like for you? And who in your life might need to hear the message of hope like this? If you'd like to learn more about William or his book, Death Can Wait, you can find all links in the show notes at nosittingonthesideline.com/159. And wherever else you enjoy your podcast, you can check it out there. Just a reminder, this podcast is informational purposes only. Neither myself nor my guests are medical professionals, but always consult your doctor and healthcare provider before trying anything we talked about today. Be your own best advocate. And also, thank you for listening. Until next time, give your kids a hug. Hey, you know what? Call a friend and somebody who's going through hard times and let them know, hey, I'm here for you. Until next time, take care. See you.